Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We have a special guest, Dr. Jack Muscat, and Jeff and I are and Jack are going to talk about cryptocurrency. So let's get started.
Yeah, it's an interesting area. You don't hear as much about it now as you did, say, during the pandemic, but it's still a very topical area. Um, I can tell you that we don't buy crypto. We've never bought it, and I don't think we ever will. Our clientele, some of them on occasion will ask us our opinion about it, but nobody has ever urged us to put their money behind this area of the market. But Jack, you were telling me you're reading Michael Lewis's latest book.
Right, and it's on Sam Bankman-Fried and the TXM exchange that he had that turned out to be an outright scam in the end. And we're looking at the kinds of people that he's looking at. Michael Lewis has a background in. He started off as a bond trader back in the day, and his first book, Liar's Poker, was about the industry. And he knows a lot about crypto and a lot about why it's become so popular. And so I got into it because I also am aware that people want to invest in it. They want to look at it. It's gone up in value. But what's the whole story about it? And as some of you know, I'm an organizational psychologist, and I've worked in the investment field as well. And every few years there's the new thing. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a thing that does work. I actually was in the industry at one point back in the day in the 80s. And if you recall, at that time, personal computers were just coming in. And I went to my sales manager. I said, we should get these little computers in the office because it would really help us in our trading. And our client management says, what do we need computers for? They're just going to get in the way. So that was something that wasn't a good idea.
Right.
And then you'll see companies that have done really well that I have invested in, like Google. Oh, I didn't know what that was all about. Or, Facebook or Amazon, which hadn't made money in 20 years, but they're real things. And then suddenly this crypto currency comes around. And I started doing a deep dive into it. And I was trying to understand what is the appeal. And I sort of looked at five psychological factors that I think make it very interesting. And one is the origin story.
Right.
Where did crypto start? And in 2008, someone or someones who go by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto in Japan came up with Bitcoin and blockchain and the whole idea that you could have transactions that were kind of counterintuitive between people that didn't know each other, where there was little trust, but you didn't have to trust the individual because the blockchain, the digital footprint, would be your proof that the transaction went through and that it was going to work. And I was thinking, well, that's an interesting story. It's now 2024. We still don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. And I was thinking of that movie, The Usual Suspects, with Kaiser Soze. Does this person really exist? Do we want to be investing in something that we don't even know the origin story? And I thought, what would be a parallel thing to be investing in that people don't know a lot about? Well, when I look at gold, but I know where gold is found, I know where it's mined, I know the history of it, and so the origin story is very intriguing. And everyone loves a mysterious beginning. And if you're going to be telling any tales, you want to be able to say, this is how this started. It's very special for you. And so the idea is that the story of how it started was kind of weird, but it then developed, and it took a few years for it to keep going. The second part of it that I think is very interesting for people is that it's technologically brilliant. That blockchain upon which it's based, it's modern, it's efficient. You have the latest and best technology. I don't want to get into the whole idea of Bitcoin mining, where you have all these computers that are solving mathematical formulas that are getting paid in Bitcoin and using up a lot of electricity. I mean, there are farms, the computer farms that generate this stuff. It's kind of weird and esoteric, but it's like the cloud. It sort of works, and people find it very appealing, even though they don't understand necessarily what it is. And I think that we want to always be involved with something new. People aren't, people still, I don't know why people put fax numbers on their business cards, because nobody uses a fax machine, but it's that kind of thing. You don't want to be left behind.
Right.
The third thing about it, and this is interesting with Sam Bankman-Fried and the whole crowd that he was in, was that they were very young people that were into effective altruism. And the politics behind it is that it's a kind of disintermediating, not Occupy Wall Street, but let's get rid of, we want to get rid of those big banks that are taking out those hefty fees and charging, rent for us to make transactions. So when we make a transaction, they're taking a piece of it. Let's disintermediate. Let's make sure that there's no way of people knowing who's transacting with whom, except in the trust of the digital key or the blockchain or the Bitcoin that you have. And it's an interesting currency. And then what we'll do with all the money that we make is we'll give it away. We will be able to affect good by giving it to charities. And I think back to when digital banking occurred, and which I thought was excellent, because when they were giving out cell phones to third world countries and to the workers, for example, in Africa, that were getting paid by the mining boss or the head of the whatever company they were working, the manager. There wasn't any guarantee that they would get paid, or that they would get, that their percentage wouldn't be taken off. But now they could get the funds directly sent to their cell phone, which was then put into their digital bank. And I think that allowed people to have a more honest receipt of funds. It also helped women in developing countries develop banking credibility, because they were able to do this where they didn't have other infrastructure. They were able to do it on their phones. The question here is how much good is being done, because there's kind of two groups. One group that it appeals to are the effective altruists, and the other group are just the greedy scammers and schemers. And how do I know that? And we talked about cognitive biases and in the previous episodes, and we talked about how do we know if something is good. Well, just look at who's advertising and where you find the advertisements to buy Bitcoin. So when I'm scrolling through Facebook or online, I'll see, you can get a 6-pack or do the keto diet, or here's a way that you can, lose weight, or you can do this. And then it'll say, here, why don't you invest in crypto? It's really easy. You can just open an account, just click on this, and it'll be really easy. Just give us your bank account number and we'll be able to help you. It was very unregulated. Why would you want an unregulated exchange where you had no idea of who was custodian of the funds? Funds would go missing. The players that were involved in this were best characters. So on the one hand, you have people that like crypto because they're idealistic. They want to not so much save the world, but they want to do good, and they want to do it outside of the traditional capitalistic approach. And then you've got the people that are looking how to make a big buck, and there's lots of money to be made. In the book, and I'd love you guys to comment on this. This is about appealing to your greed. Bitcoin is now trading at all-time highs. It's doubled in the last year. It makes you feel like, gee, I want to get in on this. And the reason Bitcoin is going up is because people are buying it, and people are buying it because it's going up. Do either of you have anything to say about that kind of psychology?
Yeah, I mean, it's a frothy area of the market. To me, anytime I look at these crypto dollars, if you want to call them that, it seems like there's the greater fool theory at work, meaning that it's only worth what the next guy is willing to pay for it. And this stuff isn't backed by anything. So to me, it's entirely worthless. But those are some very interesting thoughts.
What do you think, Sonny?
I just think it's not regulated. So
Yeah.
it's a little
It's great
scary
if you're
into.
laundering money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, to be perfectly honest, and this is This is a webcast where we spare no one, including TD Bank, which was just fined $3 billion for not managing. But it was fined by two regulatory agencies in Canada, FinTrack and OSFI, who, for whatever reasons, it was caught, but you can't find, and it paid a fine, and it's a real company, like it's a real place, and Credit Suisse and other banks have had some difficulties too with this money laundering, but the problem, the analogy I use, and I'll give you, is Airbnb. I don't know if you remember when Airbnb started. I thought it was great because in Toronto we had, this is before the pandemic, we had lots and lots of events on the weekend and not enough hotel rooms, and people couldn't come, or the hotel rooms were $500-600 a night when there were some events, concerts, whatever. So Airbnb came in to provide supply, get rid of the hotels, have peer-to-peer. You could do it through the individual. They'd make a little money. You'd save some money, and it worked. And it really worked. And then what happened? People smartened up. They started becoming corporate. It became a corporatized Airbnb. And then you had dozens and dozens of Airbnb places run by so-called individuals, and the service went down. And now we've reached a point where Airbnb prices are as high as hotels, and there's no recourse. If the place you show up in, you can't find the key, or no one's cleaned it, and there's no one to turn to. And so a lot of times these, what looks really good and what works in a kind of digital space doesn't really work in the real space. And I think that I agree with you, Sonny, totally, that it's unregulated, but you have no recourse. I'm not advertising for Bell or for Rogers, but I have my cell plan with Bell, not because it's particularly good, it's very expensive, but the odd time that something goes wrong, or with my landline, I can actually call a number and somebody will show up and fix my Wi-Fi, as opposed to having some digital thing that I can't talk to or anyone.
Yeah.
The real question, though, and I'm not the investment specialist, is there a place for this in anyone's portfolio at any level for anything? What do you think? Is there, like, if it's speculative, is it kind of, are there moments where it would have some value to be involved in it? Are there exchanges that are reputable for clients?
Not for us. It's just, I can't see the value behind this. And so if I can't assign some sort of an intrinsic value, it's just not something we'd put client money into.
Okay, I'll leave it at this. I'm not going to try to explain it. Michael Lewis wrote the book on this, and there's a footnote in one of the chapters where he said that he tried to explain Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, the whole business, and after 2 minutes, he didn't understand what he was saying. People have said that it's sort of like, it just doesn't make fundamental sense. Conceptually, it's very difficult to understand what it is. And if you don't understand anything, like Warren Buffett says, don't invest in it. But it's fundamentally not understandable. So
yeah,
we'll stick to the things we do know. And I just thought it would be something we should talk about as people are looking at this crypto stuff right now and thinking maybe it's something they should jump into.
Yeah. Good thoughts. Good thoughts. Why don't we leave it there? But Jack, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.